Good evening once again, and I'm Yogesh Pawar. I'm the program director at Population First, and it's my honor to welcome you to this very special evening, a night where we celebrate two fantastic milestones rather. The birthday of our visionary founder, the late Mr. Bobby Sista, and the Population First Foundation Day. So, yes, this is when you clap. Talk about a double bill worth showing up for. Mr. Sista wasn't just an ad man, he was a change maker who made people sit up, listen, and act. And many of you here who have known him personally will attest to that. He believed that communication and corporate engagement could spark real, inclusive social change. Thanks to his pioneering vision, initiatives like ours gained support from icons such as Mr. Ratan Tata and Keshav Mahendra, who we have sadly lost in the recent past. Tonight, we celebrate this remarkable legacy and corporate excellence and social impact. We are here to explore how CSR can move from a corporate checkbox to a game changer in development. And who better to drive this conversation than all of you? So give a big round of applause for yourselves for showing up. The very people who are making things change happen. Let's kick off this evening with a short film on Population First 22-year journey. Can we have the AV, please? The lights in the house. Lights, cut kariye.
22 remarkable years of Population First have been witness to a tapestry of moments that define who we are, an organization dedicated to transformative change. From humble beginnings to becoming a force for social impact, these photographs capture our story. Each image reflects the passion and perseverance of countless individuals who believed that every life matters. Here, we see the early days where a small team of determined change makers laid the foundation for a movement. With courage in their hearts, they challenged the status quo, sparkling conversations around population, health, gender sensitivity, and inclusive development. Along the way, initiatives like Amchi and Ladli emerged, pioneering projects that have helped reshape healthcare and empower communities through innovative communication. As you watch, notice the faces of hope, the smiles of progress, and the quiet determination that turned ideas into action. These moments are not merely memories, they are milestones, testaments to the power of community and the belief that real change is possible. This is our story, a journey of resilience, hope, and an unwavering commitment to making a difference. Thank you for being a part of this incredible journey.
Amongst us tonight is someone truly special, our beloved trustee Dr. A.L. Sharda. While her work speaks for itself, a brief introduction is well deserved. Dr. Sharda is not only the founder director of Population First, but also our go to expert whose insights always light the way. With a sociology doctorate, 35 years of experience, and a well deserved Gender Warrior Award from IAA, she's led impactful campaigns like Ladli and the Amchi Initiative, transforming health, education, and livelihoods in rural Maharashtra. Please join me in giving a warm round of applause to Dr. Sharda as she walks us through the journey of how Population First came this far.
Thank you, Yogesh. And if Mr. Sista were here, he would have said, my dear Ladlis and Ladlas. So I want to continue the tradition, and I say, my dear Ladlis and Ladlas, a very good evening to you. It is truly a privilege to be here with all of you today as we celebrate 22 years of Population First. This is not just an anniversary. It is a reminder of how far we have come and how much more we can achieve together. I had the honor of being the first director of Population First, leading it for 20 years. Great journey it was. And now continuing in my association as a trustee. Looking back at our journey, I feel an overwhelming sense of pride and satisfaction. What we set to do was ambitious, but seeing the impact we have made together makes every challenge worthwhile. When we started Population First, we had a clear vision to tackle population and development issues with a strong focus on gender and social equity. But we knew from the start that real change couldn't come just from policies and programs. It had to come from changing mindsets, behaviors, and cultural narratives. That's where communication became the most important tool. Over the years, we have worked with the media, advertising, and grassroots organizations to challenge biases and promote gender sensitivity. Our flagship initiative, Ladli, has transformed how gender issues are perceived and reported in media. Through impactful campaigns, training programs, scholarships, and our prestigious Ladli Media Awards, we have empowered journalists, advertisers, and content creators to drive gender equity into mainstream conversations. Today, Ladli has grown into a movement inspiring individuals, organizations, and even regulatory bodies to campaign the cause of cause with dedication. Sometimes I always used to say, one day I wish Ladli becomes redundant, I become redundant. I think I'm almost there because there are so many people working on the issue. I feel very, very happy about it. And thanks so much for taking the cause forward. So it really makes a big difference when I see, makes me feel very happy when I see different organizations working on the issue of gender equality and gender sensitivity. At the same time, our Ramchi project has quietly and powerfully transformed over 150 villages in Shahpur block, Thane district. Through behavior change communication and participatory rural appraisal techniques, we have empowered women, youth, and local institutions to take charge of their own development. The impact has been incredible. Communities now actively shape their own futures, addressing critical issues like health, education, sanitation, malnutrition, livelihoods, etc. As we celebrate today, I deeply miss Mr. Sista, whose vision and steadfast support have been instrumental in shaping Population First. He was not just a mentor, but a guiding force, sharing dreams and challenges with equal passion. His belief in the power of communication to transform society continues to inspire us, and though he is no longer with us, his legacy lives on in the work we do even today. What makes our journey even more remarkable is that we have been able to create this impact with a core team of merely 8 dedicated professionals across the 2 projects. This would not have been possible without the unwavering support of visionary leaders like Mr. Ratan Tata, Mr. Keshav Mahindra, Mr. Jamshid Godrej, Mr. Deepak Parekh, Mrs. Birla, and our steadfast partners, UNFPA and IA. Their belief in our mission and their invaluable support have made all the difference. We have come a long way, but the road ahead is still challenging. Changing mindset is an ongoing process, and it requires all of us, partners, collaborators, and champions of change, to work together. Let's use this moment to renew our commitment to building a society where every individual, regardless of gender or background, has the opportunity to thrive. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Let's continue making a difference together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sharda. Your words have lit up our path like stadium floodlights, illuminating where we've been and where we are headed. And banish all thoughts or talk of being redundant because we're not going to let you go. We will still bother you with phone calls, 1:30, 2 o'clock, whether on the other side of the world, we'll still keep bothering you. Up next, we have a film on a livelihood initiative. The film, please.
Shahpur is a block in the Thane district of Maharashtra. It is blessed with the verdant beauty of a plush forest and adequate rain. Mumbai, the city of dreams, relies for its water supply on the 3 lakes of Shahapur. The people of Shahapur lead a quiet, peaceful life. But therein lies the paradox. The veritable paradise is deprived of the necessities and comforts of life. Women have to trudge long distances over rough terrain to fetch water. There are no sanitation facilities, and they depend solely on agriculture for their livelihood. Infertile land is the challenge facing the farmers. Artificial manure and the use of pesticides has destroyed the natural fertility of this agricultural land, thus increasing their costs and decreasing the returns of their investments.
Population First is a NGO which is working on health and population issues from gender and social development perspective. We are working in 66 villages of Thane district under our Action for Mobilization of Community Health Initiatives, AMCHI, which means ours in Marathi. We have been engaging the women in a number of community development initiatives. One of the demands which has come from them is for a livelihood option which is not labor intensive, which is not time consuming, or which does not require too much of investment and is in sync with their agricultural activities. It is at that time that we decided that we should take up vermicomposting in a big way, because vermicomposting not only helps in improving the sanitation in the villages, but it is also a very good source of organic manure which will help improving the yield from the fields. Vermicomposting project is not just a livelihood project for us, it is just a means to empower the women to be confident and to negotiate their space in their families, in the community and in the market.
वर्मी कंपोस्ट एक्टिविटी हमने अगस्त 2011 से स्टार्ट की, जिसमें हमने 37 विलेज के अंदर ओरिएंटेशन किया था। 37 विलेज में से हमने 20 विलेज सेलेक्ट किए जिसमें हमने पीआरए किया, जिससे हम जान सके कि कौन से विलेज के अंदर वर्मी कंपोस्टिंग के लिए पोटेंशियल ज़्यादा है। 20 विलेज में से हमने 11 विलेज के अंदर महिलाओं के साथ वर्मी कंपोस्टिंग की एक्टिविटी स्टार्ट की। 11 विलेज के अंदर वर्मी कंपोस्टिंग बिजनेस ग्रुप हमने फॉर्म किए, जो कि टोटली महिलाओं के थे। ग्रुप फॉर्म होने के बाद हमने उनको ट्रेन किया।
5 वर्षापासून पॉप्युलेशन फर्स्ट संस्था आमच्याबरोबर अभियान राबवत असते आणि आम्ही 5 वर्ष इथं एकत्र काम करतोय। इन्कम वाढवण्यासाठी महिलांना काहीतरी व्यवसाय पाहिजे आणि ते सरांनी लक्षात घेऊन आमच्यासाठी हे गांडूळ वर्मी कंपोस्ट तयार करण्याचं ठरवलं। त्याच्यासाठी आम्हाला भरपूर ट्रेनिंग दिलं सरांनी, गुजरातला नेलं, बाकीच्या जुन्या टाक्या आहेत तिकडे घेऊन गेले सर आणि तिथे आम्हाला दाखवलं त्यांनी कसं तयार करायचं। त्याच्यानंतर आम्ही गावात येऊन पूर्ण महिलांची एक मीटिंग घेतली। आमचे 3 बचत गट आहेत, 30 महिला आहेत। 30 महिलांबरोबर आमची चर्चा झाली। त्याच्यानंतर 12 महिला तयार झाल्या हे करण्यासाठी। ज्यांच्याकडे गुरं आहेत त्याच महिला तयार झाल्या आणि ज्यांना वेळ देता येईल घरातून, ज्यांना प्रोत्साहन देतील पुरुष, अशाच महिलांना आम्ही तयार केलं आणि त्या गटाला जे अनुदान दिलेलं आहे ते सगळं पॉप्युलेशन फर्स्ट संस्थेने दिलेलं आहे। त्याच्यातून आम्ही 30,000 रुपये अनुदानातून हे जे चालू केले, आता आम्हाला महिन्याला 10,000 रुपये इन्कम मिळतोय।
But the women of Shahapur discovered vermicompost methods which provided the much needed relief and generated a steady source of income. Each unit of 10 tanks generates 20 quintals of compost, valued at 10,000 rupees every month. By using this organic manure in their own fields and not using chemical fertilizers and pesticides, women have been able to curtail their expenses. The improved quality and quantity of the produce has also proved profitable.
गांडूळ खत हा म्हणजे कसा आपल्या आरोग्याच्या दृष्टीने पण चांगला आहे, कारण तर आपल्या केमिकल खतामध्ये आपली जमीन किती नापीक झाली।
वर्मी कंपोस्ट के लिए मार्केटिंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है, इसीलिए उसी विलेज के अंदर एक्टिविटी स्टार्ट की जहाँ पर 2 टाइम खेती होती थी, जहाँ पर ज़्यादा मैन्योर यूज़ होता है। ज़मीन के ऊपर हमने पीड्स बनाए। ये पीड्स जो हैं वो 3 फुट चौड़े, 7 फुट लंबे और 1.5 फुट ऊंचे हैं, जिसके अंदर हमने काउडंग एंड अर्थवर्म्स का यूज़ करके मैन्योर हमने प्रोड्यूस किया। बहुत सारे फार्मर जानते हैं कि वर्मी कंपोस्ट अच्छा है, फार्मिंग के लिए अच्छा है, बट उसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं करते हैं। तो इसलिए उसका एक्सेप्टेंस बढ़ने के लिए हमने वर्मी कंपोस्टिंग के डेमो दी। डेमो के अंदर लगभग हमने 45 फार्मर को 1.25 कुंटल मैन्योर दिया और 2 से 3 गुंठा प्लॉट के अंदर हमने उसको यूज़ करने के लिए बोला। ये जो डेमोस्ट्रेशन था, एक तो हमने भिंडी के ऊपर किया, दूसरा हमने ककड़ी के ऊपर किया, राइस के ऊपर किया, केली बनाना के ऊपर किया, साथ ही हमने मिर्ची के ऊपर किया. लगभग 45 में से 42 फार्मर ऐसे थे की जिनका बहुत ही मतलब पॉझिटिव्ह रिझल्ट था.
मागील वर्षी मी भेंडीसाठी गांडूळ खताचा वापर केला. जवळजवळ डेमोसाठी त्यांनी मला 1.25 क्विंटल खत दिला आणि त्याचा उपयोग मी माझ्या 2 गुंठ्याच्या प्लॉटमध्ये केला. तर त्याचा रिझल्ट असा मिळाला की ती जी भेंडी होती तिची क्वालिटी खरोखरच उत्तम निघाली आणि जो रासायनिक खताचा वापर होता, जी किंमत आहे ती जास्त होती आणि गांडूळ खताची जी किंमत आहे ती कमी आहे. जरी वापर जास्त प्रमाणात असला तरी किंमत कमी असल्यामुळे गांडूळ खत परवडतो आणि विशेषतः त्याचे जे उत्पन्न आहे ते रासायनिक खतापेक्षा निश्चितच जास्त होतं आहे आणि जास्त काळ टिकते विशेष म्हणजे. त्यामुळे गांडूळ खताचा वापर यावर्षी आम्ही भातासाठी सुद्धा करणार आहोत. आमच्या गावातील महिलांनी एकत्र येऊन तिथं गांडूळ खताचं युनिट टाकलेलं आहे आणि आता आम्हाला गांडूळ खतासाठी कुठेही जाण्याची गरज नाही. हमारा आमच्या शेतावरच ते मिळणार आहे.
10 से 15 क्विंटल मैन्योर आप जो है मतलब बेच रही हैं. ये लोग एक तो मैन्योर बेचकर पैसे इनके पास आते हैं, फर्स्ट थिंग. सेकंड की जो अर्थवर्म्स है तो अर्थवर्म्स हर 3 महीने में डबल होते हैं. इनका जो मतलब प्रोडक्शन है काफ़ी फास्ट होता है, तो इसलिए ये अर्थवर्म्स भी बेचते हैं. अर्थवर्म्स की आज की प्राइस 700 रुपीज़ पर केजी. साथ ही साथ वर्मी वॉश बेचते हैं और 1-1 केजी के पैकेट जो है मतलब पैक किए हैं, जो ये सिटीज़ के अंदर बेचते हैं 20 रुपीज़ पर केजी. तो ऐसे 3-4 एस्पेक्ट्स हैं जिनसे वुमेन के पास में पैसा आता है. वर्मी कंपोस्ट ग्रुप के अंदर हर काम का डिवीजन हुआ है. इनके अंदर अलग अलग सी मतलब कमेटीज़ हैं, जैसे कि सेलिंग कमेटी है, मार्केटिंग कमेटी है, उसके बाद अकाउंट कमेटी है, युनिट मॅनेजमेंट कमिटी है.
आता मार्केटिंगसाठी आमच्या महिलांचा ग्रुप तयार केलेला आहे आम्ही. 2 महिला ह्या गावात, 2 महिला त्या गावात असं ठरवून आम्ही जातो. आठवड्यातून 1 दिवस 2 दिवस आम्ही मार्केटिंगसाठी देतो.
The Amchi Livelihoods project is supported by RBS and is implemented with the active participation of the women's group. We have not only made the women economically independent, but we have also helped them evolve into more confident individuals.
जो आजपर्यंत आम्ही काम करत होतो ना, हा काम म्हणजे आम्ही कसं करत होतो, एक दबाव घरच्या यांचं परत अधिकाऱ्यांचा, या दबावानुसार आम्ही काम करत होतो. पण आता आम्हाला त्याचं म्हणजे पूर्ण संकल्पना कळल्यानंतर पूर्ण आमचं काम आहे आणि स्वतःचं काम आहे आणि त्या स्वतःच्या कामावर आम्ही स्वतःच्या पायावर उभी राहू शकतोय, उभी राहिलोय. म्हणून ह्या हिशोबाने आता आम्ही काम करतोय. तर ह्या कामासाठी म्हणजे आता आमचा स्वतःचा पैसा झालेला आहे, त्याच्यामुळे आम्हाला घरात पण कुठले काही निर्णय घ्यायचे असले तर आमचे निर्णय आम्ही स्वतः ठरवतो. म्हणजे आता एकदम मजामध्ये काम करतो, एकदम हसत खेळत करतो.
आपल्याला जेव्हा इन्कम चालू झालं त्यावेळेस महिलांना जरासा धीर आला.
आम्ही आता कोणाला घाबरत नाही, कोणाला लाजत नाही. खूपच आत्मविश्वास वाढला, कारण आम्हाला कधी बोलण्याची सवय. आता तुमच्या समोर पण मी बोलू शकले नसते.
स्वतःच्या कष्टामध्ये आम्ही आज कोणाकडे मागायला नको का,
आणि आम्हाला त्याच्यामध्ये आता चांगलं वाटतंय.
आणि आजपर्यंत माझी हीच पहिलीच खेप स्वतःच्या कष्टाने घेतलेले पैसे मुलाला देता आले.
A quiet revolution has taken place in the villages of Shahapur. The parched earth has transformed into fertile land. And women's participation in the development of the village communities has redefined the role of women.
Truly inspiring, isn't it? Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Santosh Desai, a maestro in decoding everyday life. As a noted author, columnist, and CEO of Future Brands, his sharp insights and humor turn even the mundane into moments of brilliance. If you've ever read his work, which appears in Leading Daily, you know he makes you laugh, think, and occasionally say, "Why didn't I think of that before?" So let's welcome the ever insightful, ever witty Mr. Santosh Desai with a huge round of applause. Mr. Desai.
Thank you very much. A very kind introduction, Yogesh. It's a real privilege to be here. I think it's a special occasion, and I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Population First on the Foundation Day. And I think it's a great time to remember Mr. Bobby Sista, who was really a force for change. All those who knew him would know that his quiet kind of commitment and absolutely fierce determination was such an inspiring kind of a guide to all of us. And I had many, many occasions to interact with him, and I've always, every interaction has always been special. So congratulations again. I'm going to talk to you about communication and the idea of change and change in a meaningful sense. Sorry, I need a clicker, I think. Okay, you'll do it? Okay, okay. Okay, I'll say next. So the thing about social problems and particularly when we talk about changing mindsets is that the problems run deep. These are not problems that are superficial, these are entwined. Typically, if you were to look at it, they are embedded behavior that are ecological in nature. What I mean by that is that any one problem is actually a network of problems. It isn't one problem. So if you were to look at, say, the problem of early marriages taking place, it is linked to a whole bunch of issues, including safety for women in rural areas. It is linked with the fact that the place that women enjoy, it is linked with cultural norms that have been deeply embedded in society and have been legitimized over millennia. So therefore, any action, any mindset the change that is required, fundamentally is about thinking about the ecological nature of the problem and not about the problem by itself. And the interesting thing is that in any given context, behavior is often rational. So in an environment where young women are not safe, it is rational for parents to want them to get married early. So it's an interesting situation where the presumption, and I say this because very often the presumption for anybody who's trying to drive change is the fact that we have somehow to educate people, that they don't know better, and that we know better, and we will come in from the outside, and we will tell you that actually, this is the way to be. Can I have the next slide, please? The trouble with reality is the fact that whether we agree with it or not, it has a very good reason to exist. I think this is the fundamental truth when we begin any exercise of change at a social level. Reality has a very good, if it exists, it is because there are a bunch of forces that have conspired, that work together in order for it to be what it is. So it is never going to be easy to change any embedded reality. The nobility of our intentions make no difference. The fact that we come from a noble place has absolutely no impact on our effectiveness in bringing about change. And very often these lines are blurred. We are so convinced of the fact that we are coming in with good intentions that it legitimizes what we do regardless of whether it makes sense for the other person whose life we are kind of intruding into and deciding that we know better and that we will make an intervention. So unless communication is insight-driven, continuous, and part of an ecological suite of actions, its effectiveness tends to be limited. Because it tends to be a one-off kind of an intervention that comes and goes, which is skin deep and doesn't actually bring about change. Next slide. And there are two different strategic approaches you see very often. One is what I would call is asking the question of what causes the problem. And the other is to ask what comes in the way of the solution. And it's interesting how these two are divergent approaches that the first one is actually the default approach that we have. When we are faced with a social problem, our first thing is to explain as to why that problem exists and why it is wrong. The other way of thinking about it, and we'll talk about it as we go along, is to ask the other question, is saying that what is the solution that I seek and what is coming in the way of that solution, and to try. And so it's interesting how you will see across different communication approaches, both of these strategic approaches being used. Next, please. There are several ways, and I'm just going to run through a whole bunch of ways in which communication strategies are used, particularly, and we'll try and kind of examine what is it that actually works, what becomes more effective. Next. So the traditional approach is the information dissemination approach. It is the educate the masses approach. It is the fact that I possess superior knowledge and I need to somehow transfer it to a bunch of people who do not have that knowledge. There is a knowledge asymmetry at work, and therefore that is my role. My appointed role is to actually give that information. And a lot of government programs historically have used this approach. There is a IEC is the is the phrase that is often used as a kind of moniker. It's a top-down approach, assuming knowledge deficit is the primary barrier, and it relies on clear, simple messaging and repetition. That is the underlying, and it's a slogan orientation that very often is at work. Next slide, please. So, old family planning programs tended to have this, 2 या 3 बच्चे घर में होते हैं अच्छे, और अगला बच्चा अभी नहीं, 3 के बाद कभी नहीं. Even बेटी बचाओ, बेटी पढ़ाओ. All of these are broad statements of intent that are a substitute for motivational sort of an ideas. None of these ideas are motivating. The limitations are that there is no attempt, in fact, to acknowledge the culture, and there is no insight that is at work. For instance, in India, Chota Parivar is not a Sukhi Parivar. Our whole idea of Sukhi Parivar is Bada Parivar. The larger the family, the more fun it is. Who says Chota? Chota Parivar is a very constrained and a very unhappy space, in fact. Right? Even something like Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. Which parent's ambition is limiting to bachaoing a beti? Right? Beti Bachao is a government program. You want your beti to do well. I mean, if you have motivations about your beti, it is not going to be limited to let the beti survive. Child survival is not a parental motivation, right? But it is a government need. And I think that is fundamentally where a lot of these programs kind of are very limited in their scope. Doesn't address underlying social and economic factors, and therefore becomes often easy to ignore. Becomes wallpaper. It is something in the background that okay, statements of intention that you see around you without actually going any deeper. Next slide, please. There is some utility, however. It's not as if they have no utility. They build initial awareness of previously undiscussed issues. It also helps in generating a base level of awareness. For instance, like in smoking, in anti-smoking, without having the health messages on the fact that smoking is harmful, any subsequent action would be incomplete. So therefore, that basic level of awareness, to that extent, there is usefulness. The next approach, can you have the next slide, please? Are more comprehensive, more insight-based campaigns which actually take the trouble of trying to understand the cultural issues at work. Well thought through campaigns that strive to make a difference. Also provide practical handles for addressing complex social problems. And here the attempt is to turn awareness into concrete action. They go beyond mere awareness generation. Next slide, please. So for instance, the Bell Bajao campaign that was run by Breakthrough, which is an organization that I'm involved with in some form. They asked neighbors to ring the bell when they heard acts of domestic violence. So if you hear act of domestic violence near you, all you go and do is bell bajao. And that was what it was asking people to do. It gave neighbors a simple, non-confrontational way to intervene in domestic violence. To say, all well, is it okay? So if you stop the violence, the fact that there is a third party that is actually watching you suddenly gets registered in that household. And therefore, there is an intervention that takes place, which kind of brings, there is a certain sense of agency. What it does is that it makes a personal problem, it socializes. It gives a neighbor a right to intervene and to take some action. And it provided a specific action. So it is not about domestic violence is bad, but it is about saying this is a simple action that you can take to intervene. And addressed the whole idea of bystander paralysis, which is what often happens in these cases. This, I'm sure, Balki is actually the person to talk about it, but a brilliant campaign that for HIV/AIDS awareness, which was about, the Balbir Pasha character that was created, outstanding use. You take a subject like HIV/AIDS, and instead of talking about and lecturing people about what is wrong and what gives you AIDS, to use it through a character and to tell a story, which becomes a compelling story for people to figure out who is Balbir Pasha, what happened to, will he get AIDS, those kind of questions. Darwaza Band, which is a campaign to end open defecation, which again I think is a campaign that goes beyond platitudes. Do Boond Zindagi Ki polio vaccination campaign. One of the, these are some of the few campaigns which actually did go beyond the first level of awareness generation. Next slide, please. Key elements are, for instance, they're based on insight. The idea of having a National Immunization Day, for instance, comes from the insight which is a very counterintuitive insight, which is the fact that it is easier to change the mind of thousands of people at one go than to change the minds of one person at a time. It is easier to bring about change at a mass level if everybody that day is going to get themselves immunized. The responsibility of the individual to think through whether this is good for me or not gets diminished. Sab ja rahe. What in Hindi you say, bhed chal. It is a mass movement. Everybody is going. I don't need to think about it. My risk is minimized because it is distributed over the numbers. Over a large number of people are doing this, so there must be something to it. I don't want to be left out. So it's a different way of creating social permission. It creates social permission to act. Similarly, in a very different way, in fact, the Balbir Pasha campaign, what it does is, it just provides a sort of it piques interest and makes people invested in a subject that they think it has nothing to do with me. I have nothing to do with this. And from there, it allows everyone to kind of hook into this and say that, it's something that then becomes engaging and involving. Next slide, please. The other interesting way of thinking about communication is actually what I would call narrative reframing, which is how you are able to create a new mental model of an existing social issue. It deliberately describes the problem differently so as to bypass biases and resistances, and recasting issues to make them more relatable or urgent. Next slide. For instance, shift from population control to family welfare in government programs. What it does is that population control is a government idea, is an idea that is no family wants to control population, right? No individual family is interested in that idea. Family welfare is something people are interested in. That move also, in a sense, was accompanied by a strategic shift away from sterilization to spacing, which again is more aligned to the interests of the people that you're speaking to. Similarly, climate change replacing global warming. Global warming fundamentally creates a situation where if you have a very freezing winter, like in fact Donald Trump said that, right? What are this global warming? We had the worst winter ever. Which of course is Donald Trump. So it cannot be extrapolated to normal human beings. But even so, I think the idea that how you can have a sort of a framing that asks you to think of a problem in a certain way, whereas a different kind of a framing changes the way you think of the problem. The transformation of the disability discourse in India from a charity-based approach to a rights-based framework. Again, a fundamental shift that happens, instead of it being the whole idea of bicharaness, of saying that, it is our duty, this is a form of charity, to the fact that it is their right, fundamentally changes the nature of the discourse around the subject. Next. So fundamentally what this does is changes how problems are perceived, discussed, and addressed, creates new pathways of dialogues previously blocked by existing frameworks. And I think it's particularly, when it comes to things like mindset changes, invisible changes that don't meet resistance are much stronger ways of bringing about change than overt communication. Overt communication can be met by resistances because they are entrenched. That's why we'll talk about the next one, which is also an important one, which is design as communication, redefining perception through form. You embed change in design, using visual and physical design to challenge stigma and stereotypes, and products and environments as powerful communicators of value. Next slide. Take this subject of disabilities. The design of the wheelchair fundamentally makes disabled people feel vulnerable, weak, and dependent. A huge problem with the feeling of disability comes from there is something so helpless about traditional wheelchair design. Now you change the design, and now there are sporty wheelchairs. There are wheelchairs that are designed fundamentally differently. The idea that, yes, there may be a certain kind of an area in which capabilities are not, are different, but that does not take away from the means or the desire to enjoy life, the desire to participate in life fully. And this, instead of saying this, you enable this through an act of design, by redesigning it in a way that fundamentally changes how we think about disabilities. So you have people disabled wheelchair races, You have, it just changes the idea around it without having to give a lecture about it. Next slide. Another very common example that we use is helmets and condoms, which I think are structurally very similar products. Both in terms of protection and in terms of diminishing pleasure. They on both those fronts they have commonalities, and which is why the design is actually surprisingly similar across both. But both of them, if you want people to adopt a safety measure, one is to lecture them on safety, what is wrong, and the other is to make a really sexy helmet, which aligns with the culture of biking, rather than being opposed to it. Similarly, for a condom, align with the idea of sexual pleasure instead of being Nirodh, the name, was actually about no, and it is about between rogue and negation. It is, if you look at the phonetics of Nirodh, it is about the worst name you can think of, right? Here you have something which is a participant in the sexual process, which you are creating absolute the opposite of anything to do with it. So it's interesting how, again, design is a very underrated kind of a tool in bringing about fundamental mindset change. Next. The invisible re-engineering of stereotypes, subtly challenging norms without explicitly stating the change agenda, and normalizing new behaviors by simply depicting them as ordinary. I'll give examples. Next slide, please. So ads that show men participating in household chores, women lounging while men work in the background. So a couple of years ago, we did a project for ASCII where we looked at gender representations in media. And what we found was very interesting, that in a lot of ads, where the story was something else, but if you showed a family situation, the husband and the son would be lounging around watching TV, but the woman would always be doing something in the background, right? She was never given the right or the freedom to be lounging, right? For her, it's a fascinating kind of a template that we seem to have in our minds. The fact that men lounge, but women cannot be allowed to. She's removing a plate somewhere, but she's fussing around in the background, somehow gainfully employed. And it's interesting how just to change that representation, without drawing attention to it, without making that a big deal, making that a normal part of our lives. The Tanishq ads, where the point is not about the interfaith marriage or the remarriage, the point is about something else. As against, I'm not a great fan, I know it is highly lauded, etc. I'm not a great fan of the Ariel commercial, simply because it just points too much attention and makes a very big deal out of something which should be commonplace. So and I'm sure there are people who disagree, but in my view, it's not a meaningful kind of a change agent. Next slide, please. So therefore, here what you're trying to do is you're trying to create the power of the new routine, bypassing defensive reactions to explicit messaging and creating new default settings in public imagination, right? Which is so that, instead of having, if you have two children, instead of having a boy and a girl, or two boys, having two girls, without comment being the most important thing there. Particularly effective for gender norms that are deeply internalized. Next slide. Of course, then there is popular culture. That's pretty obvious, powerful role in shaping attitudes, both in reinforcing stereotypes, of course, as well as changing them. Some attempts are being made to bring about change. Whole bunch of films you saw, for instance, the bunch of films which have tried to do that in their own way, successfully, not so successfully. Then we had the whole Manke Manjire, many years ago, which was this a fabulous, I think, attempt to create a completely new archetype and make it compelling, make it desirable, very powerful kind of a use of social media, media. And now increasingly you find this grassroots digital storytelling, which is democratization of media. That's what has happened today. The fact is that, we don't need people who know better to come and message and give messages. Today, people themselves have the ability to talk about and to represent themselves and changing. And I think that is the most powerful form that we have today. Ordinary people becoming powerful communicators of lived experiences. Bottom-up organic communication that bypasses traditional gatekeepers. And I think that really is truly a democratic and empowered form of communication. Next slide. And a whole bunch of examples. Young women using Instagram reels to portray a critique of everyday sexism families. There are so many such reels that you find. People who are in little fragments. On a day-to-day basis, it's almost like they're telling stories of resistance. They're telling stories by pointing, they're not making lectures. Again, no lectures. They are parodies, they are critiques, there is satire, there is tongue-in-cheek fun. It is all very, very palatable, but it is relentless. It is a continuous stream of messaging that is happening through a bunch of very different people, in very different ways, reinforcing this idea. There was a Jyoti Nooran, who's this singer, had this Paon Ki Juti, which was this whole story in a video form. Which ended with her sort of walking out on her husband and sort of tearing the photograph. What was interesting is that action went viral, and so you had a bunch of young women emulating that and kind of imitating that, and so it's interesting how it sets in motion organic change without, again, it being unsupervised organic change. Dalit creators using TikTok before the ban, and now other platforms to address caste discrimination through satirical skits. You have a lot of Dalit presence, which is, again, making statements which are assertive, which are empowered through this medium. And rural content creators, again, are highlighting their issues, agricultural issues, a whole bunch of other issues, again, through this format. Next slide. A bunch of examples, that we've seen. In fact, this is very fascinating. We don't have the time, but do you have a Dalit card? It's a really tongue-in-cheek kind of a look at the idea of, oh, you're pulling the Dalit card. And then it kind of reverses that argument of the Dalit card. Really interesting. Next slide. The source of power here is that it creates visibility for experiences previously invisible in mainstream media. That these were not available, we didn't hear these voices. And it translates and transforms isolated experiences into recognized patterns of discrimination. So bit by bit, we see the pattern. Again, it is not an overall, nobody's presenting an overview of discrimination, but you see it through little vignettes, all of them adding up, all of them eventually becoming coherent in our minds, and uses humor to make difficult conversations accessible. It becomes possible, your guard is down, you're not resisting, you don't know what is coming next, and it comes at you, and it allows you, therefore, to accept messages that otherwise you would have been close to. And it builds solidarity across geographical and social boundaries. You recognize other people like you. And you see the fact that there is a community like you that is undergoing similar experiences. And that by itself legitimizes your experience. Next slide. There are new modes of communication. Theater, for instance. I'm not personally a great fan of the street theater, which you see a lot of. I do find it a little, a bunch of well-intentioned people coming and kind of playing around a little bit. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of that, but it was an interesting sort of a experiment that I came across with, which was this idea of the theater of the oppressed, which was something that was created by a Brazilian actually, I think a theater kind of an actor or director, if I remember correctly. Boal, yeah. And here, it's an interesting technique. It's an interactive theatrical technique where audience becomes what he calls spect actors. And I'll just explain it. So basically, there's a scene depicting social problem is enacted and then reenacted with audience intervention. Next slide. Initial performance shows protagonists failing to overcome oppression. Scene is replayed with audience members stopping action and stepping in to try alternative solutions. Collective exploration of solutions through this kind of an embodied experience. Let me describe actually what I saw, which was really very, very powerful experience for me. This was in UP, and what was being talked about was early marriages and what is wrong. So the scene is enacted by people who come in. There are a bunch of actors who come in. And they basically play this scene where this young girl wants to study, and she's carefree and happy and all, and is very keen on studying. Her parents say, no, you have to get married. And there is a sort of a conversation with the other side, and she's forced to get married. They For 2 years, she's allowed to stay at home, and then after 2 years, she goes to the in-laws side. And there, gradually, I mean, she wants to study, she's not allowed to, and she starts getting kind of more and more kind of becoming part of the old system where she's asked to do a lot of work, unhappiness is expressed with her. So that is the first round one of that depiction. And you ask people to say, what do you think, etc., etc. Then there is the round two, where what happens is that now the oppression gets a little worse, right? And so the husband starts getting involved and starts screaming at her, etc., etc. And now you ask the audience to say, how do you want to change this? And so it started by a bunch of young girls having a point of view, saying, no, this is wrong. So how would you rewrite it? So they give suggestions, and it becomes, each subsequent kind of a action becomes a little more oppressive. What I saw was really interesting is, after a point, the audience really started getting angry. Women, old men. And when they got angry and said, no, this is wrong, don't do it this way, the cast players, the actors, instead of giving them lectures, actually defended the regressive practice and defended it vigorously. So now the position is reversed. The outsiders are defending the regressive practice, and the locals are intervening and bringing about change. It is a transfer of responsibility entirely from what was traditionally are the people who know better, are actually the ones who are standing for traditional practices, and it is the local sort of actual people who are involved who start getting and start guiding change, start owning change. And it truly was a very kind of a powerful and a visceral kind of an experience, seeing how effective something like that could be. Next slide. Yeah, I think I made this point. Next. So, because what this does is that it moves beyond intellectual understanding to embodied knowledge. You feel it, you feel that anger. It democratizes solution-finding process, builds collective agency, and transforms passive spectators into active participants in change. And I think that, to me, that fundamentally it is about change being owned by the people who benefit from change, rather than it being owned by people who are coming in from the outside, so to speak. Yeah. Then, of course, we have organic mass movements powered by digital media, ground-up expression of anger when it happens. We saw that internationally in the case of Me Too and Black Lives Matter, where communication acts as a multiplier. In India, we also saw it, although it went nowhere when we had the anti-corruption kind of a campaign, which was again a ground-up feeling, where there is that momentum for change. That's rare, but in a digital world, it is something that is a very powerful handle when it does happen. And finally, the ecological reality. When communication, the truth is that in any of these things, communication alone is insufficient. It is one of the agents that acts. And current realities exist, like I said, for complex reasons. And to my mind, public service advertising misses the fact that, unless it is accompanied, with a whole host of actions, A, B, unless it is continuous. And the problem with the funding ecosystem that most, developmental organizations work with is that there is no guarantee of continuity. Right, so you get funding for 2 years or 3 years, and it's a project kind of an orientation. And after 3 years, what happens? The problem doesn't go away. The problem doesn't get solved. So very often it's an act of self-deception, right? Where you think you're doing something, you do it for 3 years, and then you just walk away because you don't have the money, because somebody else has moved elsewhere in their interest. So fundamentally, unless there are mechanisms that hand over the program to the people who actually are benefiting from it, very often a lot of these programs are scripted to fail. They are fundamentally scripted to fail. Next slide. If I look at the anti-smoking campaign as an example of this kind of the fact that and it's one of the few really successful campaigns. I mean, globally, from a time when I entered the workforce to now, which of course is a very long time, but even so, in that period of time, we've seen substantial, significant change. And it works on, so whether we do warning labels on packaging, restrictions on advertising and public smoking, the legislation, celebrity campaigns. Next slide. But I would argue that one of the most important elements on that was constructing the idea of passive smoking. To my mind, if I had to isolate one element that made the big difference, it is the idea of passive smoking. Because it converted what was an individual problem. People say, okay, I'm killing myself, what's it to you? Right? Yeah. I can now say, because you are killing me too. It gives me a right to have a point of view on what was an individual problem. So fundamentally, to my mind, that is the big change that happened. And again, it, I think, points to the principle of bringing about change like this, is that can you think of something that changes the way people think about a problem? It doesn't have to be through overt communication. It can be through powerful conceptual ideas that reconfigure the way people think about a problem. And to me, those are really powerful kind of ideas of change. Next slide. So there are a bunch of, I think I won't go through the principles. I think the point is made. But fundamentally, I would argue that the more holistic and the more ecological they are, the more culturally embedded they are, the more invisible they are, the better. The more we are able to reframe, communicating, we think of communication as a lot of talking, but fundamentally, a lot of communication works at a subterranean level. And the more we are able to sort of find those kind of answers, the stronger it is. I will actually end here. I think the future, when we look at it, I think there's, of course, a lot of change that is, how can you have a presentation today without mentioning AI? So here I'm mentioning AI. Will change things significantly, but it's the truth. I think it offers the fact, that people now will have more and more agency, more and more power to produce and to give voice and shape and form to their feelings. They have a way of distributing that, widely. I think is a game changer that has not fully been recognized and realized by the change-making ecosystem. It is an organic development that has taken place. People have started doing it without it being harnessed. And I think there is a lot of room to harness that energy and to actually create sustainable, long-term, continuous movements for change. And I think that it is when people themselves take responsibility for their own change. That is when change is most durable, most effective, most powerful, most sustainable. Yeah? Thank you.
So you see why I called him a maestro in decoding everyday life. By now, since as the evening is progressing, you've kind of gotten to know the template. Every time somebody speaks, we should then show you a film. So here, the next film.
Each dawn brings new possibilities. In these quiet villages, where life often feels frozen in time, a silent revolution is stirring. It's a revolution that begins with a single powerful idea that every child, especially girls, no matter how remote their home or humble their background, deserves a chance to dream, to grow, to learn.
पहिली म्हणजे ये मुलीला काही येत नव्हता, शाळेत जायला तिला मन लागत नव्हता, काही येत नव्हता, त्याच्यामुळे ती जात नव्हती. आता तिला सगळा तुमच्या क्लास यात सुरू झाल्यामुळे तिला काय समजायला लागला. आम्हाला पण वाटला का हे पोरीला काहीतरी येतो, आता ती जाते स्वतः तयारी करून.
From the very start, this journey was rooted in partnership.
हा प्रकल्प 150 गावापर्यंत पोहोचला, कारण शिक्षक,
ग्रामस्थ, नेते मंडळी आणि आम्ही स्वतः ह्या प्रकल्पामध्ये सहभागी झालो. शिक्षण हा एक आशेचा नवा किरण आहे हे सगळ्यांच्या लक्षामध्ये आलं. प्रत्येक बैठकीमध्ये, प्रत्येक चर्चेमध्ये समस्या आल्या, त्याच्यावरती उपाय सुचविले गेले आणि हा प्रकल्प यशस्वी करण्यामध्ये सर्वांचे सहकार्य लाभले.
केलेले कार्य हे उल्लेखनीय आहे. मी आमच्या शाळेतील विद्यार्थ्यांना नुसतं शिकताना पाहिलेलं नाही, तर शिकण्याचा आनंद घेताना पाहिलेला आहे. मी पॉप्युलेशन फर्स्ट व ॲटॉस फाउंडेशनला विनंती करेन की आपले हे कार्य आमच्या सर्व शाळांमध्ये विस्तारावं, जेणेकरून आमच्या सर्व मुलांना त्याचा जास्तीत जास्त लाभ होईल.
या उपक्रमामुळे आमच्या शाळेतील सर्व विद्यार्थ्यांच्यामध्ये अगदी आमूलाग्र बदल घडलेला आहे. त्यांचा आत्मविश्वास आणि त्याचप्रमाणे त्यांची जिज्ञासा ही अधिक पटीने वाढत आहे. एक शिक्षक आणि त्याचप्रमाणे या शाळेचा मुख्याध्यापक यापेक्षा मी अजून काय मागू.
Teachers are the heart of this movement. With dedication and compassion, they are not just imparting knowledge, they are unlocking potential. Through innovative techniques and patient guidance, these educators are giving children a gift far more valuable than gold: the joy of understanding, the pride of learning, and the courage to believe in themselves.
सुरुवातीला मलाही संकोच वाटत होता, पण प्रशिक्षणाने मला आत्मविश्वास दिला. मुलांमध्ये नवीन संकल्पना रुजू होताना मलाही माझ्या प्रयत्नांना सार्थक झाल्यासारखे वाटते.
मला क्लासमध्ये यायला खूप आवडते, कारण माझी शिक्षिका माझ्यासोबत खेळ खेळते आणि मी स्वतः गणिताच्या समस्यांचे समाधान करू शकते.
No change is possible without the strength of a community. Here, fathers and mothers are stepping forward, not just as parents, but as partners. Sometimes, this can bring in interesting dividends.
जेव्हा गावकरी आपल्या मुलांच्या भविष्यासाठी एकत्र येतात, तेव्हा ते गावातील इतर समस्याही सोडवतात. उदाहरणार्थ 150 गावांपैकी 30 गावांमध्ये गावकऱ्यांनी एकत्र येऊन वीज आणि पाणी पुरवठा निश्चित केला आहे.
मी लहानपणी तर काही शिकू शकले नाही, पण जी शिक्षणाची संधी माझ्या मुलीला मिळाली, तिचं सोनं करण्यासाठी ती आयुष्यात पुढे जाईल आणि ती शिकेल यासाठी मी तिच्यावर लक्ष ठेवील आणि तिला उच्च शिक्षणाची संधी मिळावी यासाठी मी प्रयत्न करत राहील.
आमच्या शाळेतील मुलांना हा पायाभूत या संस्थेकडनं मिळालेला वर्ग हा खरोखर एक संजीवनी आहे. त्याचा फायदा आज मुलांना खूप होतोय आणि आज आमची मुलं या संस्थेमार्फत कुठेतरी मोठ्या आशेने पाहतात आणि मोठमोठी स्वप्न पाहू लागलेत.
Change doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey with hurdles and heartbreaks, but also moments of triumph that make every effort worthwhile. For children who once struggled with the alphabet, reading their first sentence feels like conquering a mountain.
In my village, roads are very clean. I like my very much.
Every smile, every breakthrough is a reminder that progress, no matter how small, is still progress.
जेव्हा आम्ही ह्या मुलांना शाळेमध्ये पाहतो, तेव्हा आम्हाला जे साध्य करता नाही आले, ते आज ही मुलं हे साध्य करू शकतील.
याआधी मलाही शिकायला खूप अडचणी यायची, पण मी आता माझ्या भावांना गोष्टी वाचून दाखवू शकतो. आम्हाला असे वाटते की त्यांनीही शिकावेत.
This is more than a project. It's a promise.
Thank you, Population First, for Project Amchi. Your efforts have empowered more than 10,000 students in 150 villages, equipping them with essential skills and holistic learning through WASH training, ARSH sessions, and Menstrupedia books. More than education, Project Amchi nurtures dreams, breaks the cycle of poverty, and ensures every child is seen, valued, and capable of greatness. Together, we are planting seeds of change and growing a future where no child is left behind.
We've been working in Shapur block for the last 21 years, since 2003, on health, education, livelihoods, and other rural development initiatives. Our bridge education program for school children lagging in learning levels has been a great success. We have reached out to around 10,000 students in the last 2 years, ensuring that they do not drop out of the school and continue their education. This is a very satisfactory initiative for us.
From its inception, Population First Amchi project has always believed that every single child has potential. All you need is to believe in them. That's exactly what we are here for. And we are very happy to find congruence in this worldview and vision with Atos Prayas Foundation, which has supported our cause. Without them, this project would never have happened and we would never have been able to touch so many lives. We are very honored to have the talented, multiple award-winning cinematographer Rakesh Solanki with us tonight. Uh, without him, this magic that we saw in this film would not have been possible to be put together in one day. A special thank you to the entire AMCHI team led by the wonderful Sangeeta Tribhuwan and Fazal Pathan. Could I kindly ask both Sangeeta and Rakesh to stand up so that we can applaud them? Yes, why don't you come up ahead? I think Sangeeta, please pude ya. Yeah, I think people in the front can't see you. Please come. And to think that this film was shot like we did the whole film, we shot it in one day. So a lot of effort went into preparing and going and shooting this in that much time. And now we also have with us the gentleman who gave Population First its name. So can I invite Mr. Joseph Saria? Can you come up, please, sir, if you're here? Yes, please come. Mr. Joseph Saria will tell us a little about how Population First got its name.
My God. I was not expecting this. Thank you. Yeah, I used to be working with UNICEF. And after UNICEF, I've been working with none other than Keshav Mahindra, Palkiwala, all this for an organization which was working for communal harmony. This was during the time of the riots. So I used to be working with, that's why I came across Bobby Sista and Alik Padamsi and all these people. And I came across and we did a very big event known as the Ekta Raksha Bandhan Din. That was just being part of across the country in 530 cities for human change for that. That's moment, Bobby Sister told me that, you should also be supporting me. And I was just doing some voluntary work with him. And he told me, I'm sorry, becoming emotional, thanks a lot for that. He told me that you should also be supporting me. So that was the conceptualization time for Population First. And I was also a very good writer, like you, sir. And I took pride in that, and Mrs. Sister told me that you should be writing the did the conceptual note for that, and I started writing that. And I have a problem because, always he used to tease me because when I have to write, I need to have a name. So without a name, I cannot do that. So he used to tease me that, the other people think the other way around, tu to ulta hai. You think you have to have a name first and you got to be writing out there. So then that is a greatest moment that I used to meet Mr. Padamsi, RP, Mr. Roger Pereira and all those people. So we came out with 110 names. And out of that, I just gave 2 names out of that. And it was nothing but it was a copycat, to be very frank, because I know Jerson Dacona because I was working with UNICEF. So London first came, Jerson Dacona copied it into Bombay first, then I copied it into... That's exactly the story. But so Bobby's sister liked it. Then he told me that now that you got the name, you start writing. Okay, then I got the impulse to write that, and it was just like, it was got a 6 months project. I used to work with him, and thanks a lot for that. And really happy that I'm here.
Well, the man in the White House has also got to America first. So, the copying goes on. So Sridharji has just pointed it out to me. And now, one of the most absolute favorite parts of the evening that we have lined up. While the film that we saw, it highlighted an initiative realized through the generous support of Ethos Prayas Foundation. Today we have with us a representative from our wonderful collaborator, Ms. Sunita Bhuyan, who isn't just here as a representative, but also as an incredibly gifted violinist. Prepare to be mesmerized by her signature genre-bending musical style. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Sunita Bhuyan. Please come.
Very good evening to all of you. Dada sound. Mic on कर दीजिए. A very good evening to all of you. I was invited for this event like all of you, but when Yogesh called and said, if you're coming all the way, will you get your violin? Can anyone say no to a cause like Larli and Amchi? Can anyone say no to that? I think a round of applause for Population First, to the amazing Larli movement. Even though Amchi is the project that I and my colleagues are involved in, we still refer to it as Larli. And sometimes when we make presentations, we forget that it's called Amchi. So, thank you. So I did come with my violin, but we are not prepared for a normal standard performance, but it's out of the heart and a tribute to the wonderful work that Population First does, but to very special people. To two special people whom I met even before I met Dr. Sharda. And that is definitely dear Bobby Sista, because when I met him for the first time 15, 20 years back, he said, no, you've got to call me Bobby, don't call me Mr. Sista. So, Bobby, and then, of course, the one and only Dolly Thakur. So music happens with the connecting chords, and these two have been the connecting chords. And Bobby met me at NCPA and said, you got to come tomorrow to IB Chavan for the mega event you guys were doing. And since then, it's been a long and warm relationship with so many people involved. And what a fabulous project Amchi is. in the interiors of Shahapur, and what kind of grounding and orientation little girls, boys, their teachers, their guardians are getting thanks to the efforts of this entire team of Amchi. It's not easy to just come and even sing on a stage just like that when there's such wonderful speeches happening, and it's a little difficult to play the violin too. Wish I knew that Anuradha Pal was also there in the audience, the famous tabla player. I would have told her to get her instrument too. But without much ado, this is just an offering. Instead of talking about what Amchi does to the girl child and all of the wonderful things that already our eminent speakers have talked about, I would just want to say that when we say Beti Padhao, Beti Bachao, we've got to also say Beta Padhao, Desh Bachao. Because if the boy child is not educated and given responsibilities, education not the one that is academic, but the orientation to share equal responsibilities, that's when we have this whole concept of inequalities and the girl child suffering. So that would be my submission. But spring is near. When they say winter comes, spring is soon to come. And being from Assam and having just arrived especially for this event 2 days back, I'd like to sing a song of spring in my own language. And would like to herald the beautiful colors of spring for all of us here. And especially for Larli, for Amchi, and all the wonderful work that we're trying to do to create an equal world. Round of applause for Sound Dada, meaning he got a wire from the other auditorium, dear friends, and got me connected. Moina sorai mithaman Huni sane senai dhon O huni sane mitha Oi ma Akashe botahe Notun dinor আগমন ওই নন আশাবুর লোল दादा DI box, give the beat, don't stop the beat. एक चेयर के ऊपर उठाइए ना DI box, तो और अच्छा होगा हमारे लिए. 1, 2, the bihu beat goes like a double clap. Noi loi halile yo deha nodali yo bholuka. I want a chair. Nodali yo bholuka. Pothara loi halile kako. Bukure kami haru senai holu dali dali Kalo inu sinta kuri, kalo inu sinta kuri. 1, 2, 3, 4. The girl is saying, my body is swaying towards the river. And like all men, the boy thinks that she's swaying towards him. And the boy says, Noi kahuria o senai kabolo yunu juhure, kabolo yunu juhure, nohoinu pete bhorar bhat. Monore dapuno to senai sabolo yunapalu, sabolo yunapalu. Napalu khopuno tu moy. I'm a very small farmer on the banks of the river. I don't have enough to take you home. A sad story. Those who provide for us don't have enough at home. Noi kahuria o senai kabo. Please come. Nu juhure. Kabo lo you nu juhure. Nohoi nu pete bhorar bhat. Ladies and gentlemen, one and only Anuradha Pal. Noi kahuria o senai kabo lo you nu juhure. Kabo lo you nu juhure. Nohoi nu pete bhorar bhat. Monore dapuno to senai sabolo yuna pahalu, sabolo yuna pahalu, napalu hapuno tu, napalu hapuno tu.
Tata gina takit dada dada gina na dun dun nana gina dari takit na takina dagya takit dadit dada takit gina dari takit gina
The same folk song turns into a Scottish reel because love is universal, humanity is universal. The 7 notes of music are universal, and the couple gets a lot of work across different shores with their bihu song. 1, 2, It's not easy without your instrument, but to make yourself the instrument, the one and only Anuradha Pal, and I'm Sunita Bhuiya. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You know, when you started singing, somebody told me, it needs tabla. I said, I don't have that. So I said, कोई बात नहीं, थोड़ा मैं बोलो से काम कर लेती हूँ. कोशिश की. Thank you so much.
I'm still shivering from this performance. I think इसके बाद मुझे कुछ कहना बहुत मुश्किल हो रहा है. You know, it's so difficult to follow up to say anything after this act, you know. I mean, I can see how everybody, please, I think another round of applause is necessary. Anuradha ji and Sunita ji, thank you. क्या समा बांधा आप लोगों ने. Shruti box.
Sunita was playing so beautifully, I had to come and join her. You can see her again on the 9th.
Up next,
Yes. Oh yeah. You coming?
we now have someone who turns corporate budgets into life-changing opportunities. And that's really a superpower. Prerna Langa is amongst us. Prerna Langa is CEO of the Aga Khan Agency for Habitat. She has shown us that CSR isn't merely She has shown us that CSR isn't merely about writing checks. It's about creating lasting impact. With her expertise in sustainable development and disaster resilience, she has transformed communities for the better. Today, she'll share how businesses can move beyond good intentions to truly change lives. Let's welcome Ms. Prerna Langa with a big round of applause.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to watch the rock stars before me. I mean, it was just outstanding. So thank you so much. It's great to be here. It's like a reunion. I've come to many of Population First programs, and I would like to congratulate them for being the pioneers in using media for social change. So I'm going to be talking about mindset transformation. So my story is actually came through an accident. I joined Yes Bank, from ICICI. I was part of the startup team with Nachiket. We set up ICICI Foundation. And then I had the opportunity to join Yes Bank. And I kept asking them before joining as to, what's going to be the budget? And they were like, we'll let you know. So then once I settled into the job, they told me that your budget is 40 lakh. And I was a bit shocked because I came from like 80 crore. And I was like, what am I going to do with 40 lakhs? So they were like, we have news for you. We don't only want impact, we want visibility and shusha. So I was like, what can we do? And then I came across, I had worked with a partner, Madhusudan Agarwal, I think he worked with Population First too. It was his idea of using media for social change. So we all know that with youth, you can't really lecture them or tell them that, do this, do that, nobody's going to listen. It has to be a challenge and it has to be an experience. And also, on the other hand, unlike Population First, who has great films, we find that nonprofits don't really have communication resources. So we said, how do we do this? So we said, chalo, let's start a challenge on India's Independence Day. It was a 101-hour social filmmaking challenge, wherein at 6 o'clock in the morning, if you were a participant, you would get a topic. It could be on random acts of kindness, everyday heroes, or it could be on women or environment. And you had 4 days to find the subject of your topic and make a film, edit and upload. So we said, so our objective was like, the film was more of an excuse, because in my life, I found that while I had done an MBA in marketing, my true calling came at ICICI Bank. So we were working on microfinance, but when I actually went to the field in Andhra Pradesh, and I dressed down because I thought I'm going to be meeting poor women, and I was surprised to see, because in Andhra Pradesh everybody wears gold and they're all well dressed, that the poorest women there were all there. The meeting was at 7 o'clock. At 6:45 they were there. And they knew the power of money. They all ran micro enterprises. And they seemed in charge. And I was like, who are we talking to? These are not beneficiaries. If they had the same opportunities that I had, where they would be. So I realized, and that was for me quite life-changing. And how can we create platforms and opportunities? Because I truly believe that each one of us here want to contribute. We want to do something to give back. So that's how Yes, I'm the Change started, and I'm going to intersperse with a small video of the journey of Yes, I'm the Change. Yeah. Yeah, I can put on.
बदलूं मैं खुद को, बदलूं इस जहां को। Yes, I am the change. छोटी छोटी बातों में सबको बांटूं प्यार। Yes, I am the change. बदलूं मैं खुद को, बदलूं इस जहां को। Yes, I am the change. छोटी छोटी बातों में सबको बांटूं प्यार। Yes, I am the change. खुश करके सबको खुश हो जाऊं बार बार, हर एक मौसम में फैला दूं मैं बहार। Yes, I am the change. Yes, I am the change.
Earlier, I used to make films for myself. I used to make films for fame. I used to make films for money. But now, I make film for changing the mindset of the society. And this portion especially is the best thing which happened in my entire life.
ताकत है मुझ में कर सकता कुछ भी यार हिम्मत है मुझ में जीत लूं हर इम्तिहान अपने ही दम पे रख दूं एक मिसाल मुश्किल हो कुछ भी जियो दिल से यार Yes, I am the change कहो अपने दिल से Yes, I am the change कहो इस जहां से Yes, I am the change कहो मुस्कुरा के Yes, I am the change कहो गुनगुना के Yes, I am the change Yes, I am the change Yes, I am the change Yes, I am the change
So this was a journey of changing the world one story at a time. And we had a team member, we were a two-member team, but we made everybody a team member. So all the people you see here, we didn't know them. I had no connection with Amitabh Bachchan or anything, and he had never come for any Yes Bank event. I feel it was just the power of request. You know, we believe that it's about giving the voice for voiceless, because even when we went to colleges, people would say, I'm not a filmmaker. We were like, you don't have to be a filmmaker. Take your mobile phone, we'll show you how to make a film. And what started as this filmmaking movement turned into quite transformative for the participants. So, you know, one of the participants said, great, I met Amitabh Bachchan, but even greater that I made a film on this person called Mr. Firodia, who was physically challenged but contributed to social issues. He said meeting him was life-changing. And so many people started volunteering, starting their own movements. In fact, we have so many stories of change. It was just heartwarming. So I'm going to just take you next year. So this was the kind of impact. From there, we created a fund because people were coming out with their own initiatives. We were lucky to get a TV series spot. Of course, we had to produce it ourselves. Then we did fundraising. And it reached some 2,500 participants. And in the final year, we had 13 lakh participants. And everywhere I go, I meet Yesam the Change participants. There are 2 here. Yeah. So I'm just going to take you, what I'm highlighting is as to how, you know, we say, you know, if you want somebody to progress in life, teach the man to fish. What we are saying is teach the person to love the water. He will automatically build the boat and learn to fish. So with this, we saw many stories of transformation. Moving to the next slide. Yeah. So, so the first one is Leena Kejriwal, and Leena Kejriwal happens to be here in the audience. And she was a participant. Leena, you can stand up. So Leena made a film in 2014, and she made a film on, what was your topic, Leena? Missing women, missing girls. And soon after making the film, she started working very closely with us, and she started her own non-profit. And I'm going to play her story. I think this was in 2016, but we'll follow it up. Yeah.
I've been working with a lot of NGOs and people who've been trying to prevent trafficking. And I used to always wonder, what could I do? Because it's a very sensitive topic to me. So I said, why don't I use my language, my visual imagery to speak to the public? And that led me to the next step of public engagement through social media, a crowdfunding campaign, and then the stencil campaign became a part of that. My whole crowdfunding campaign started with the team members from the Yes Foundation who came and joined me. And they've always mentored me. The stencil campaign is a huge campaign which we are using in schools. We do it in rural, urban, and it's done by artists across the world. It's a DIY kit. So that's led us to now a game, which also the Yes Foundation helped us launch. It's easily executionable like the silhouette. My whole intention has been engagement, public engagement.
So moving to the next slide. So this was many years ago when Leena started in 2014. And now Leena runs a very successful organization. A film has been made on her, which has gone to Cannes. And what she does is amazing because it's really one of its kind. WHO says the best way to prevent, sex trafficking is education. So she's actually going school to school, spreading awareness. The worst is through this cyber, the children are getting trapped into it. So this is her kind of reach, 3.5 million and 1.2 lakh children educated on personal safety. Lots of vulnerable children are out there, and Leena is doing her bit. And like Leena, there are so many change makers who started their journey through a film, through a filmmaking challenge. And that's the reason we even believe even more in the power of positive accidents, you know. So that was Leena. And moving next, actually, I'm going to move faster. So this is what Leena is doing currently. You can connect with her later. Next. Yeah, so Ravi Iyer was one of our participants. He made a film on Roxanne Davar. I'm going to show you a small snippet.
First time I walked into Probably Paradise and she opened the gates, there were 70 dogs which rushed at us. And that's the first time I've experienced anything like that.
Basically, this is a dignified place to die. That was the idea. So animals can die with dignity. Most of these animals are coming in from Bombay and some from Pune. They're elderly, on the road. They are chronically injured. Animals are God's gift to educating children. Running an establishment like that, whether it's human, animal, children, old people, is a vast resources if it is done in a proper manner. I work with grants and donations. Challenges basically is staff and finances.
So, when you make a film on somebody like Roxanne, it doesn't end there. So Ravi is still very much in touch with Roxanne. He has done fundraising campaigns and collected money and made her entire shelter solar powered. And she has, of course, gone on to now she has nearly 500 animals. And she's in Kajat, so you can visit her. I had invited her here today, but she was busy. So that was about my journey at Yes Foundation. I work with Aga Khan Agency for Habitat. And here too, we are working on climate action. We are working on climate action for cities because we believe that a lot of CSR, a lot of funding goes to rural areas, but what about people like you and me and the quality of air we breathe and the construction that's going around, our neighborhoods? Incidentally, while cities occupy just 3% of the geography, they contribute to some 70% of emissions. So it's about how collectively we wonder what can we do. It's BMC who has to do something. So how collectively we can take action. We worked on the climate action plan for Meera Bhainder, and we just came out with the report. 62% comes from emissions is through energy. The next 22% is through transportation. So we said, what can we do? And if you see, 40% comes from residential housing societies. So it is also the power of a residential housing society. We work with societies to empower them to run their managing committees better, to collect the dues, to make it more green, because like 35% of worldwide emissions comes through constructions. So if you green and you retrofit, you can delay the constructions. So we worked with this particular society, the next slide, and in Meera Bhainder Road, and put in all these measures that you could see, and it's the power of the collective. It's the societies who also put in the money. So by just using simple things like solar or motion sensor lights and BLDC fans, 62% of their efficiency went up, which means such a used, reduction in what they are emitting out in the city. So wanted to highlight this. Also, right now we are facing a big problem worldwide when it comes to climate, especially about heat. It's just getting every year is the hottest year ever. And the worst affected are people that are living in the slums. So we did a project recently in Mira Bhayandar Road in the slums. I'm just going to show you a small snippet and then I will end. Yeah, next one. Yeah, so this is the map. We mapped which were the places which were the most hot, and the slums which were the vulnerable ones, we worked with them. Yeah.
गर्मियों में ज़्यादा तापमान आता है पतरे की वजह से, ज़्यादा हम लोग को हीट मारता है नीचे, हम लोग रह नहीं पाते हैं घर में।
गर्मी होने से ज़्यादा हम लोग का खर्चा बहुत बढ़ता है, बच्चे बीमार पड़ते हैं, हम बीमार पड़ते हैं, कोई काम नहीं हो पाता घर में, पढ़ाई लिखाई नहीं कर पाते हैं बच्चे लोग।
उन्होंने बताया कि अपन जो गर्मी से लोगों को राहत दे सकते हैं, तो बोला अच्छा है ना, लोगों का भी भला हो जाएगा।
तो जिस दिन गर्मी लगता है तो काम करने का मन नहीं होता है, तो ऑर्डर मेरा कैंसिल करना पड़ता है। हमारे घर में एलोपल किया है और वेंटिलेशन के लिए हॉल करवाया है, तब से तो थोड़ा रिलैक्स है और ठंडा भी है।
So the makers of this video is in the audience, Nani and Gurkiran. Yeah, so yeah. So actually this is meant to be a reel for social media. So with this, I wanted to end, my interaction. I just want to say that just believe in your intention. And I've seen it with me, without too much of resources as to how change can be made. I truly believe that the universe conspires to make things happen. Just have that idea and belief and look out for partners. Anything is possible. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Langa. Our next speaker today is a man who has spent decades shaping powerful stories, both in advertising and in the fight for social change. K.V. Sridhar, affectionately known as Pops, is living proof that wisdom only gets sharper with age. As the executive trustee of Population First, Mr. Sridhar has taken his creative genius beyond ad campaigns to champion causes like gender equality, population health, and social development. Today, he's here to show us that the right message can change mindsets and maybe even the world. Let's welcome the inspiring Sridharji.
Thank you, Yogesh. You have been very generous and unkind. You have not warned me also. But nevertheless, I think Bobby would be very happy today. And it is very difficult to really fill into his shoes. I'm realizing that to walk in the shoes of your mentor, how tough and difficult it is, where you may have the intent, but you need to have the courage of conviction to walk the path. I don't know, what attracted me towards him. I have known him as an advertising person, but I have never worked with him. For over 45 years, I have known him, ever since he started his journey into advertising. But always admired him as an advertising person. But around 2003-4, whenever he was starting the Population First, he told me that he used to call me Sridhar Garu with affection because we both come from the same community of Andhra. And he told me he never called me Pops till the last day. And he's the only person maybe who never called me Pops. But he told me that whatever you have been doing, if you make more people do that, you would make a change. I asked him, what have we been doing? The only thing, at the later part of my advertising career, I was doing is changing a boy to a girl in every script, comes to me. And to some extent, Balki was also a witness to them. And at times, I used to curse Balki and Nitesh Tiwari and whoever, all these men, used to write scripts saying that you are rowdy rascals. And then, it got me, and then he actually told me the power of communication, the skill which you have, which if you were to channelize, you can make a social impact. So that got me, and then he really pulled me into really the cause of gender equality, and then the issues of women and children and poverty in our country. I don't know whether I'll be able to contribute anything, but I'm very enlightened and then glad to be sitting at every Population First event last 20 years, whenever I had the chance to sit through. And same today, not only am enlightened, a character I thoroughly enjoyed, my old friend Santosh speaking about how we can make a change, not by merely bringing in awareness, but to bring a change, you need to have a life inside. And if you are connecting with people, if you have an insight, you will be able to connect with people. If you don't have an insight, you can just raise awareness, which means absolutely nothing. Correct. And effective communication always makes people to think beyond the interaction of what you do. The power of persuasiveness is what will make people change. And I'm delighted that you have highlighted many things, how the social interaction would make a difference. You always wanted to disseminate information and then really push your intent onto people by force, and then change will not happen. That street play experiment, and then the way the people whom you want to change become advocates of change instantaneously by being involved in that is quite heartening. That's what two-way communication always does. Interactivity will enhance the affinity towards any issue. And it was wonderful. And then also wonderful to see impromptu performance by two wonderful ladlis. there was only one Ladla sofa, and then waiting for another rascal Ladla, Balki to come and then share his wisdom. But what a wonderful evening, and so inspiring, Prerna, whatever you have done. And also Mr. Joseph sharing population first, coming from London first to something. And then I have got another partner in crime that we went and created the biggest global campaign for cricket called Cricket First. This was in 2000, right? 2003 World Cup. And so this copying, goes on. There is no reason why we are called as copywriters in advertising. Correct. So thank you very much. I was not expecting this, but enjoy the evening. Thank you.
After that insightful talk by K.V. Sridhar, it kind of, whenever he's spoken, we get a sense how when creativity meets purpose, real change can happen. Mr. Bobby Sista embodied that, and so does K.V. Sridhar, who's carrying forward his legacy. Let's shift our focus to those using the power of media to challenge stereotypes and drive change. The Ladli Media awardees have been fearless storytellers, shining a light on issues that matter. The Ladli initiative, like Dr. Sharda pointed out when she spoke in the beginning, has been supported by UNFPA. We have with us Anuja Gulati, who she's left because she had to leave. She told us she's going to be here for a while. But Anuja Gulati, who was with us representing UNFPA. Instead of just hearing about their impact, let's listen to what these awardees have to say, how this changed their, like in their own words, if they tell us about how this helped bring about change. There's a special montage of quotes from our incredible Ladli Media Award winners. Lights kar lijiye.
लाडली कितना प्यारा लफ्ज़ है ना, सुनते ही लाड़ आ जाता है। और हम पत्रकारों के लिए ये शब्द बहुत ही मायने रखता है, क्योंकि ये हमें याद दिलाता है लाडली मीडिया अवार्ड्स की, जिन्होंने हमें एक नई पहचान दी है। लाडली मीडिया अवार्ड्स ने हम सबको एक प्लेटफॉर्म दिया है, जहाँ पर हम अपनी कहानियों को और भी बारीकी से कर सकें और एक दूसरे से जुड़कर सीख सकें और एक दूसरे को सिखा सकें।
लाडली मीडिया पुरस्कार ने भी मुझे बार बार यही अनुभव कराया कि चलते जाना है और जीतना निश्चित तौर पर एक बहुत ही संतुष्टिदायक और सम्मानजनक अनुभव होता है, क्योंकि यह प्रभावशाली पत्रकारिता और रचनात्मक लेखन को मान्यता देता है। पॉपुलेशन फर्स्ट और लाडली मीडिया द्वारा प्रस्तुत ये जो पुरस्कार है, ये उन व्यक्तियों और मीडिया संगठनों का सम्मान करता है जो कि स्टीरियोटाइप्स को चुनौती देते हैं और जेंडर सेंसिटिविटी को बढ़ावा देते हैं। ये उनको चुनता है जो कि अपनी प्लेटफॉर्म का उपयोग महिलाओं या पुरुष, जेंडर बेस्ड है, उनकी आवाज़ बढ़ाने, उनके राइट्स की वकालत करने और सामाजिक अन्याय को उजागर करने के लिए काम कर रहे हैं।
Did you know that women are 7 times more likely than men to not only be misdiagnosed but also discharged while in the middle of a heart attack? Women and gender minorities are usually told their health struggles are just stress. Public health isn't just about medicine, it's about whose suffering is acknowledged and whose lives are valued. And gender shapes public health in ways we can't ignore. That's why media representation matters. Ladli has been amplifying these stories, and I'm proud to be a part of this movement for a gender equitable society.
I would just like to say thank you to Ladli for creating the platforms for discussions, supporting articles that um, make sure we think about gender not just as a concept that we have forgotten, and gender rights and women's rights not as things that are always second and secondary to other identifications like caste, creed, and societal status, affluence, race, so on and so forth. And we hope that we have a better future together tomorrow. Thank you.
Hello, Ladli. Hello, Population Force. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I still remember my first UN Ladli Media Award. It was in 2018. I was only 21, and I always wanted to cover gender with an intersectional lens. But I was told that gender is not an important beat. Why do you want to waste your potential there? But I always had an issue with the way mainstream media was covering gender. And when my first blog got selected for this award, my gender-sensitive writing slowly started getting recognized by mainstream media. I will always be grateful to Population First because the way they encourage young professional by felicitating their writing, by recognizing their work, and the kind of contribution Population First is making in promoting gender-sensitive writing is commendable. And I hope to see you grow by leaps and bounds. Thank you so much.
If words had superpowers, these awardees would be the real life Avengers. Another big round of applause for their courage and creativity. We now call upon our national coordinator, Dolly Thakur. This is someone who know since my early childhood when my dad used to make me he would put on the television and make me watch someone who was delivering the news, anchoring the news bulletin, so that I would get my enunciation right. So, Dolly Thakur, the one and only Dolly Thakur. Your speech.
What can I say to better all the things that have been said? I can't tell you how proud I am to be a part of Ladli. Beyond the extensive expertise in advertising, marketing, public relations, administration, finance, the one that stands out best, and it describes Bobby the best, is the word gentleman. Throughout his career, or throughout my career in radio, television, theatre, film, public relations, journalism, I have encountered many distinguished individuals. Yet, my experiences with Bobby Sista, his pioneering endeavors with Population First, and its offshoot Ladli, remains unforgettable, having enriched my life for nearly 45 years. In 1983, at a time when my professional prospects were dwindling because Doordarshan News had become national, etc., Bobby Sista was the first to extend his support. While hosting the inaugural Young Professional Business Awards at the Taj, he invited me to moderate the function. I vividly recall sharing the stage with that era's leading business luminaries, including the award's first recipient, Pradeep Kar from Bangalore. That experience led his leadership, and under his leadership, remains one of the highlights of my career. Today, as we celebrate the 22nd Foundation Day of the Population First, a cause very close to my heart, I reflect with immense pride on my 18 years as the Ladli National Coordinator. It has brought me in touch with a lot of very prominent women, from judges to dancers to singers to Sharda will bear me out in all the people that we have contacted over the years. It remains one of the most fulfilling and proudest chapters of my life. Though he is no longer with us, having chosen to retire to a better world, his spirit continues to inspire and guide us. I remain ever grateful. I love you, Bobby.
Actually, we should have, we've sent you back, but Dolly ma'am, we'd like you to come back on stage. And we also invite all our trustees who are here so that we could have a photo op. Who would miss an opportunity like this for a photo op? So all our trustees, Dr. Sharda, you including. So after all, you know, it's not every day we have the 23rd Foundation Day. 22 years and the 23rd Foundation Day. Sridhar ji and Anil ji, please come on stage. This photo. Aye, Anil ji. Come, Vibhuti ma'am. Come. Neeta ji. You can move a little more. Move a little more. Anil ji, okay. Yes, we have to give the trustees the this. Yes. Okay. Look. And don't go because I have to give all the trustees. Now evidence. Yes. That you got paid. Thank you. Please come. Anuradha ji, always a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much, Yogesh bhai. So nice. Thank you so much.
Please.
You got a drink to that. Sir. You got a drink to Ladli and Population First.
Haan. Santosh ji and Prerna also, if you can come up on stage, we have to give. Yes, we are. He's. आइए. He used to. Mondi speaks. उनका अभी speech बाकी है.
So inspiring. Amazing.
Sing for his supper, it seems. आइए.
Thank you.
Shadam. You want to call Joseph, sir? You want to call Joseph, sir? Who gave the name population?
Sir, Joseph, sir, please come.
Joseph sir. One Joseph sir is coming.
Ah, no problem. Come, Santosh. We can't see anybody.
Come.
Could you take a video or photo or whatever? Yogesh bhai, aap आओ.
थोड़ा आगे. Come forward.
Yeah, only put up only Bobby sisters picture. Yes. वहाँ देखिए. Look ahead. Anuradha ji, look ahead.
Mind-blowing. I was learning the violin. It's impossible.
Thank you.
Come, but you must play.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So wonderful meeting you. She talks so much.
Huh? Anuradha ji. Yes. Yes, yes, please. Okay. And now, come. Anuradha ji. Megha ji, sir, settle down. We'll have the next. We'll have the next. We'll have the next awards. Please sit, settle down. Aye. Come.
Thank you so much.
And now, from the power of words, we move to the power of action. Please, I will request our guests to take their seats, please. Vibhuti ma'am, please. Come. Balki ji. And now, from the power of words, we move to the power of action. Corporate social responsibility. The Beyond Business Impact Awards celebrate organizations that don't just talk about change, but actually make it happen. First up, we are truly delighted to honor the Tata Trust for their unwavering commitment to empowering communities and driving inclusive development. Can I request Mr. Sridhar to come back on stage? And we'll call them. And could we have the AV, please? Lights off कर दीजिए. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Burzus Tarapurwala and Mr. Sridhar, our Executive Trustee. Please come, sir. Please come, sir. On Population First, I'm reading out the citation that we are going to give them before it's handed over. On Population First 23rd Foundation Day, we proudly present the Beyond Business Impact Award to Tata Trust, a true force for compassion, responsibility, and social change, one of whose beneficiaries is standing in front of you. For over a century, Tata Trust has uplifted communities, championed gender equality, healthcare, and education, and created lasting impact across the nation. Their unwavering commitment proves that true business impact goes beyond profit. It lies in purpose, integrity, and vision. This award is a tribute to their relentless efforts in transforming lives and shaping a more equitable future. With deep gratitude, Population First celebrates this inspiring journey. I'll now request Balki sir, आप भी आएं. Chief guest. Yeah, you give this and then the citation will be given by Mr.
Oh, you should? Okay.
Pooja, please help him take this. And also the citation. Yeah. Stay back. We will call you to do the next award as well. Now we are equally delighted to honor the Mahendra Foundation's Nanni Kali initiative for its steadfast commitment to empowering girls and transforming lives through education. Could we have the AV, please? Lights off कर दीजिए. We are inviting Mr. Sridhar and Mr. Balki to do the honors again for Mahindra Foundation's Nanni Kali. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Swati Srivastava from the Mahindra Foundation to accept the award. I'm reading out the citation that we have. We are going to give the Nanni Kali Foundation, which on Population First 23rd Foundation Day, we proudly present the Beyond Business Impact Award, Mahindra's Nanni Kali, a beacon of hope for countless young girls. For nearly 3 decades, Nanni Kali has transformed lives through education, ensuring every girl gets a chance to learn, dream, and thrive. By breaking barriers and fostering change, it has empowered communities and championed gender equality, helping herald change. With deep admiration and gratitude, Population First celebrates its remarkable impact and enduring legacy. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Balki and Sridhar ji. As we transition to the final part of our program, I'd now like to propose our vote of thanks. Please join me in expressing a heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has contributed to making tonight a resounding success. From our remarkable speakers and awardees to the dedicated organizers at Nehru Center, Sound Kaka, everyone, thank you so much. And as cherished guests, for making it here at such short notice to make today's evening a success. Let's take a moment to appreciate the collective effort that brought us together this evening. And now, may I invite everyone to stand up and sing. interest नहीं. After I think I jumped a page. No, it cannot happen, sir. आप नहीं बोलें इसके पहले तो I think everybody in the audience will be unforgiving of me if I please.
I just came here to do two things. Wish Bobby a very, very happy birthday. Bobby, happy birthday. And wish Population First a very happy birthday. Thank you, Shada. We've kind of known each other for a very long time. I think Pops introduced, you're KV Sridhar or Pops? What are you today? Okay. Pops introduced me to, I think, Bobby long back. I haven't done much. I haven't met him really in any advertising kind of meeting, but I met him during this. And I think when when I switched from advertising to film, I think I met Shraddha and Bobby asked me one question. He said, why? And I still haven't been able to answer that question till today. Why? Because very strangely, I do love advertising, and I still love advertising every day. I've been part of many campaigns. Lintas, the Low Lintas, has been part of many campaigns on social change, or for social causes. And actually, a lot of our brands also have kind of added social causes to their thoughts and their insights. I've always believed that I've always believed in approaching advertising in a very simple way. Like all of us, love to go to a product which gives you a little bit free, right? 15% free, extra. So I always believed that despite a consumer insight, despite something else, what can you give the consumer 10% extra free beyond the desire for that product? Just for fun, 15% extra free, what can you? I found social, a cause or a purpose, a way to give that 15% extra free, which was actually a strategy and was not anything noble. But sometimes nobility need not be noble to be noble. So it just was a strategy. That's all it was. That's how it began. That's why when we did things like Lifebuoy, Tata Tea, when we did the campaign on possibly, I think, the only actor, and I want to switch quickly to the industry that I pretend to be in today, but the only actor who's actually kind of stood for, standing up to this gender equality and actually making a statement is Shah Rukh. Because when we did a Tata Tea campaign on Women's Day, and we told him that, Shah Rukh, you pretend to be, really a gentleman, and you kind of have great respect for women, things like that. But why is it that your name always comes first on screen in all your films, and the woman's name second? And that day he took an oath and he said, from today onwards, it's just for an ad, it for one day. He would sign him up for one day. He took an oath saying that from today, the woman's name, the girl's name will always come first, my name will be second. Till today, that man has maintained that. It's a symbolic thing. It's not something else, but it just shows a little bit of what you can do when you come. And he's committed to it in every film of his. He said, okay, I'll do it till the end of my life, unless there is some guy who just comes and says, no, I can't do this stuff, I will fight with him, but I promise to do it 99.99% as long as I can to do this. So he's still doing it, and if he can do it for a simple thing, he's not even associated with the brand anymore. The brand association was for one day, but he's associated with a cause for life. And I really think I learned when I started doing films, I actually learned a lot about communication and things from when I was doing a film. I met Arunachalam Muruganandam. You all know the Padman guy. The film on which I never wanted to do a film on any social change maker, because I don't like to do stories that belong to other people, the achievements belong to other people, because I always believe that making a film on them takes away from their achievements rather than add to them. And I don't like to kind of ride on their glory. The glory belongs to them. So I was very hesitant to do this film on him. And Akshay just told me, I said, I have to write it first, but I don't feel like writing it based on a true story. He said, why don't you just meet him? I said, okay, I'll meet him. And if I like it, if I just like him or I feel inspired by him, then let me start writing. So I went to Coimbatore, and he told me a very wonderful thing. And we were handling, he did two things which actually blew my mind. The first thing that he did was he started to talk to me about advertising. He said, okay, you're from Lintas, no? I said, yeah. You do this Lifebuoy. Yeah, we do that. We do a lot of other not good things too, but Lifebuoy is one thing. Something we do. And he said, this, for men you're saying germ-free, and the sweat page, you're showing their body and everything else. For women, no germs. I said, what do you mean? He said, see, you people do all this sanitary napkin campaigns where people who are wearing sanitary napkins are jumping across these white fences and, you know, being energetic. They're playing hopscotch. They're doing all this stuff. They're laughing. People without sanitary napkins are sitting sadly at home. People with sanitary napkins are jumping all around. He called it white fences. You actually notice in all the sanitary napkins, there are all these white fences, these white pseudo fences. So I said, yeah, so it's stupid. And he said, no, but you know why it is stupid? He said, why? Because during periods, there is pain. Okay, how can you, with any napkin, with anything in the world, how can you jump fence when you're in pain? So he said the fundamental problem of sanitary napkins, the only purpose of sanitary napkins is hygiene. You have to do Lifebuoy for sanitary napkins. You have to do germ kill for sanitary napkins. You have to do protection for sanitary. What are you all people doing? What is this advertising which refuses to believe, which refuses to accept the woman can have germs, she can be suffering from, any kind of, she can catch any kind of ailment, she can be kind of suffering, and why are you not doing anything to kind of kill those germs or prevent those kind of germs from, happening or diseases from happening? So I just looked at him and he said, yeah, it's a terrific point. And I did speak to many of the big clients of our sanitary pad manufacturers who had also, I think, fortunately for me, I don't think at that point of time we were handling sanitary napkins, but before that we did, and we did those same silly things that used to happen. So I used to tell them, and they always used to have one response. They always used to say, it's tough to kind of see the lack of hygiene in that area. It's tough to show it on public TV. I said, why? You can show lack of, it's hygiene, it's life-threatening. Isn't there some way to kind of show hygiene, educate people that it's life-threatening? It's just that. And I can't believe the most educated minds in many, many companies all across were hesitating, and they were just saying, no, we can't do that. There was the can't there amongst the most progressive people who are handling kind of bad. So can you imagine the rest of the country to do that? So that's why I love this man, because he went and wore a sanitary pad. He went and tested a sanitary pad. He did all kinds of things. He actually went and did it. He put cow's blood in his stuff and figured out how much sanitary pad would he absorb. He actually wore it and did that. So when I did the film on him, he did two things. He told me one sentence that blew my mind. And sometimes inspiration comes from fictional characters. What do you think are fictional characters? And he told me he was very dirty. At the end of the day, when I was meeting him, he had, lots of grease. He was working on those machines which are making sanitary pads and all. So there's a lot of grease on his shirt. And he told me I was going to the airport, and he said, Balki, which way, when are you going? I said, I'm going now, sir. He said, can you drop me to that PG college? I'm giving one talk. I said, okay, sure. I'll drop you on the way. So do you want to go home and change your shirt and something and come back? He said, why? He said, sir, it's dirty. Black. He said, what is the point in working all day if people don't know you're working all day? I mean, that's an amazing thing. And it's so beautiful. Just if you do something, show it. Why are you hiding? Everybody's trying to show they're not working hard and having to do many, many speeches to say we are working hard. Why? I'll just show the stuff. The fellow will come. I'll come and show nice black thing, and I'll show I'm working very hard. I mean, I just fell in love with that guy at that particular moment. And he was like incredible. He was the only guy who had a checkbook. He had a room, and he used to write blank checks. He signed some 12 checks and chuck it in the corner of the room there. And it's like a workshop. This should be a table, wooden table. Various guys, when I was talking to him, various people used to come, write something, tear their check and take it and go. There's no record of everything. So I asked him, well, you don't have a finance account? He said, no, I've got only that much in the account. If one fellow takes more, he'll take from the other fellow. There's no problem. That's all there is. Incredible guy, So, cut to, now, And I was very happy doing Padman because for me, every nobility is fun. I think for me, anything you approach as nobility, I just feel very, very almost sacred. And that's why when you go to a temple or when you see something, you just don't, it's not something that you want to have fun. You don't want to kind of, crack a joke there. You want to do this, you don't want to kind of say something out of place out there. So you just want to treat everything as sacred. For me, I think the best time is just to tell a story of a person. My job was not to tell people, not to make people buy a sanitary pad without shame. My job was just the story of a man. Okay, that it went. It was possibly the most successful social change campaign I've done inadvertently without ever attempting to do it as a film and not as an ad. Because that film did things for people. It actually made a huge change in government policy. In actually every railway station in a lot of rural areas allocated land for pad factories for women to kind of make that. And I never knew a film can do this. Forget, people talk of box office records, people talk of hits and this. Actually, a film has made some policy shift and given women some kind of employment. Whether it actually made people wear more sanitary pads, I don't know, but a lot of sanitary pads were made. And it definitely did make one thing happen. I remember when I was doing the ad, I used to sit in my room, writing the script, sit in the room, and we were writing the scene on how to make the pads. And I used to have all these pads, and I used to rip open those pads, and I used to take out the cotton, and I fling it all around. I remember Gauri walking into my room and saying, "What the hell are you doing? It's ridiculous, it's lewd." I said, "What? I'm doing a film on sanitary napkin. What's the problem?" And kind of, I just want to see, no, don't do this. You don't know. You're not one bit sensitive. These are, some things you don't want to discuss. However progressive, I don't want to kind of have this in public display like this. I said, nonsense. To have a person like that change and actually leave the sanitary napkin unwrapped on the counter or anywhere and just fling it when you come from a medical shop is a huge change. I just think sometimes when you're at ease with something, when you just make something without having to preach that sanitary napkin is okay, like Santosh actually said, sometimes when you need to change something, just show it. Don't preach about it. Just show it. Let it be. So automatically, when you're normal, people take it as normal. When you're abnormal, when you say, "Hey, that's dangerous," people also say, "Hey, that's dangerous." If it's not dangerous, just go and move it. So I think, it's really inspiring, the work that you all have done and what you're doing. It's incredible, and I'm overawed by it. And I have one request for the industry that I work in. The industry that I work in today runs on 3 principles. If you want to make a hit, make sure there's misogyny, make sure you have an alpha male, and make sure it's anti-one religion. And you have a hit, okay? Can you please do some social change in our industry first, before you ask our industry to help you? So it'd be very, very wonderful if you could do that. I love coming here. I really kind of am absolutely overawed each time I come here, each time I meet Shardaji, each time I meet Bobby and all the trustees. I can't wish you the best because you're already doing the best. I just wish this thing continues on and on, goes from strength to strength. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you. And Bobby, please have a drink now. It's time.
I cannot believe I was always going to slip up on this opportunity to hear these wonderful words from you, sir. Can we all rise for the national anthem? And just, yeah, I don't know. That's what they asked. Okay. So, Jana
Gana Mana Adhinayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय जय हे